Welcome back to the second example, where I just want us to reinforce the use of the median formula in the calculation of the median, the quartiles, and any other question that can be related to that in applying that formula. So I want us to look at another example here, where we are told that the table shows ages in years of 60 people who attended a conference. The ages are given in years, ranging from 30 to 39, and the last age group is 70 to 79. The number of people falling in those particular age groups are given, and the question goes that calculate the median age. So again, let me just restate the formula for the median. It is the lower limit, lower class boundary of that class plus n over 2 minus cumulative frequency for that class over frequency of that class times the class interval of that class. So we go for what is important first is the cumulative frequency column, which we can create. So the cumulative frequency column, this is 10, this is 22, 22 plus 18, that will be 40, 40 plus 17, that will be 57, and 57 plus 3, that will be 60. So we say that the cumulative frequency column is going to be used to help us locate the position where that particular measure, if it is median, the position, the class where it falls. And for the median, we shall get total frequency, which is 60 over 2, giving us 30. Then we go to the cumulative frequency column and check where will the 30 fall. It is more than 10, it is more than 22, but less than 40. So we can say that it falls under 40, and 40 corresponds to the class 50 to 59. So our median class is already known. That is the class where the median falls. So 50 to 59. And we have said that everything revolves around that class. We shall need the cumulative frequency before that class. We shall need the class interval of that class. We shall need the frequency of that class. So once the class is identified, everything is unraveled. Now, the lower class boundary of that class, as you can see, will be 49.5. Plus n over 2 we have already got is 30 minus cumulative frequency before that class. You go back to your cumulative frequency column and check. If this is the class 50 to 59, the cumulative frequency before that class is 22. Over the frequency of that class. Frequency of that class is 10, but we can just be sure it is 10. So 59.5, the upper class boundary, minus 49.5, the lower class boundary of that class, you will get 10. So also we have said the frequency of that class is 18 times the class interval of that class, which is 10, that we have just got. Then we can now simplify. And now let's just go ahead and simplify and confirm. So you will get 53.94 for significant figures. That will be the median age, 53.94. The second part of the question is asking us to calculate the quartile deviation. And quartile deviation, we had said, is the upper quartile minus lower quartile divided by 2. We'll just illustrate how to get the quartiles once again. So Q1, which is the lower quartile class, we shall use L plus N over 4 minus cumulative frequency before that lower quartile class over frequency of that class times the class interval of that class. So the lower quartile class, how do we get it? So a quarter of 60 will be 15. So we go to the cumulative frequency column and check, where does 15 fall? It is more than 10 but less than 22. So it falls under 22, and therefore the class that corresponds to that is 39.5. So our is 40 to 49. So the lower class boundary is 39.5. But the lower quartile class is 40 to 49. So the lower class boundary 39.5 plus n over 4 we have got to be 15. So 15 minus cumulative frequency before that class, you can see is 10. Over the frequency of that class. The frequency of the class 40 to 49 is 12. Class interval of that class is 10 because there is uniform class interval. So that, again, we can simplify. You can work it out also with your calculators. It comes to 43.667. Q3, which is the upper quartile, the formula, lower limit of that class plus 3/4 of n minus cumulative frequency before that class over frequency of that class times the class interval of that class. So we just need to know the class where it falls. So 3/4 of total frequency, 3/4 times 60 will give us 45. So where does the upper quartile class fall? You will check under the cumulative frequency column and see where 45 will fall. So obviously 45 is more than 40, so it will fall under 57. The class that corresponds to that is 60 to 69. So the upper quartile class is 60 to 69. Upper quartile class is 60 to 69. So we can do the substitution. The lower limit of that class 60 to 69 is 59.5 plus 3/4 of n is 45, we had already found that, minus cumulative frequency before that class is 40 over frequency of that class. The frequency of the class 60 to 69 is 17 times the class interval of that class, which is 10, because we have seen that the class interval is uniform. So we can again simplify that. You work them out so that you also follow. you will get 62.441. That is the upper quartile mark. But we are being asked for the quartile deviation, which we had said is semi-interquartile range. So quartile deviation is Q3 minus Q1 over 2. Q3 is 62.441. Q1 is 43.667. Leaving it at that alone is interquartile range. When we divide by 2, we get the quartile deviation, which you can simplify and find. So we can be able to get the quartiles, we can be able to get the median. Even if you were to go to percentiles and deciles, it's the same thing. We manipulate the same formula. But now I want us to look at the reverse working. Look at now Roman 3 of the question. We are now given that the percentage age of people in the conference whose ages were, to calculate the percentage ages of people in the conference whose ages were 54.5 years and below. So we are given the mark. The mark is 54.5. How do we come up with the number of people whose age is below 54.5? You must work back using that median formula, but carefully. We can say let the number of people whose age is 54.5 and below be X. You can let it be X. So that we use that formula. The mark is already given. So, using that formula, we need the lower limit of that class plus that total frequency divided by anything is supposed to be giving us the number of people up to the point where we have that mark. How many people are involved? That is X. So instead of n over anything, we just have X, but then we shall have cumulative frequency before that class over frequency of that class times the class interval of that class, which is supposed to give us 54.5. So a lot of information is here. 54.5, if you look at the ages, 54.5 is falling in the class 50 to 59. Meaning that the lower class boundary of that class is 49.5. We don't know the number of people, so it remains X. Cumulative frequency before that class is 22. Over frequency of that class is 18 times the class interval of that class, the class 50 to 59, which is 10, should be able to give us 54.5. Just using the same formula but working backwards. So we can simplify. The rest of the work is now arithmetics. We can have X minus 22 over 18 times 10 is equal to 54.5 minus 49.5 when we take this the other side of the equal sign. So when we do that, we shall have X minus 22 over 18 times 10 is equal to, when you subtract 49.5 minus 54.5, we shall get 5. When we continue the process of simplification, we shall say that x minus 22 is equal to 5 times 18 divided by 10. You can multiply by 18 divided by 10 on both sides. That is why we end there. You continue, x minus 22 is equal to, if you simplify that, you get 9. X is equal to 31 when you add 22 on both sides. So there are 31 people whose age is 54.5 and below. And as you can see, we have just used the same formula, but you become creative now, meaning you can work back. The mark is given, you can assume like you are given the median mark, you are given the upper quartile mark, you are told the number of people who scored that mark. You can work back and be able to get. So please, I want you to take time, go through the questions testing median, quartiles, percentiles, deciles from group data and by calculation. You realize that the work is simple. You can score all the 10 marks in any question. We can now be able to do it using a graph, the agile. We can be able to do it when the data is not grouped, where we just list and pick. So in our next class, we shall look at the mean, the variance, the standard deviation from both ungrouped data and grouped data. I want to wish you well, and God bless you.